Five Nights at Freddy's revived a linguistic feature from Old English. I know it sounds crazy, but English used to have a feature that seemed to have been lost hundreds of years ago, but Five Nights at Freddy's proves it's still around. In order to explain, we have to talk about productivity. In linguistics, this refers to the ability for something to create new words. Consider, for example, the English plural suffix. There's s, like in cats, dogs, and foxes, and then there's en, like in oxen, children, and brethren. But that's pretty much it for the en suffix. There's almost no other words it takes. But the s suffix is the default plural marking strategy in English. It pretty much takes most other words. Crucially, look at what happens when I come up with a new word. If I have one wug, say, then would I have two wuggin? Doesn't really sound right, but two wugs sounds a lot more normal. Sure, these are both plural suffixes, but en is fossilized. It only exists in a set few words. Meanwhile, the s suffix is productive. We can use it to coin new words. In reality, productivity is a bit more of a spectrum, depending on how useful something is at coining new words. But what does this have to do with Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, we're almost there, but first we have to talk about le. This is a diminutive suffix, which means it's added onto a word to make it seem small or cute. For example, the words kernel and nozzle were originally diminutives of corn and nose. This suffix was certainly productive in Old and Middle English, but is it productive today? Dictionaries suggest that it hasn't been used to coin a new word since the 1600s. It certainly seems like it's unproductive. The only way to prove otherwise would be to find an example of a modern word that was coined by adding the le suffix. Well, in the game Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the titular antagonist, Nightmare Freddy, is accompanied by 3 miniature versions of himself, referred to during the game's development as Mini Freddys. But the community was never really satisfied with that, so people kept trying to give them a different name, until one day, Reddit user Mario Bros 612 suggested calling them Freddles. Clearly a modern coinage with the le diminutive suffix. And it wasn't just a joke suggestion either. People loved the name, and it caught on so much that the game's creator ended up making it canon in the next game. So does this prove that the le suffix is still productive? Kind of. Remember that productivity is a spectrum. All this really shows is that the le suffix isn't entirely fossilized. It's semi-productive. Still though, it's kind of crazy to think that FNaF of all things would provide such useful linguistics data.